immigrants were arrested at a nightclub in Denver. Federal officials say some of them were drug traffickers and gang members.
At 3 a.m. on a quiet Sunday, over 300 federal agents, SWAT teams, ICE officers, and Black Hawk helicopters raided an underground nightclub in Colorado Springs. They blasted the steel door with C4, stormed the dance floor with rifles drawn, and discovered the unthinkable. Among the 115 people arrested were 17 active-duty U.S. Army soldiers in full uniform, earning $400 a shift as muscle for a massive drug and prostitution ring linked to Central and South American gangs. Just 12 miles from Fort Carson, America's own troops betrayed their oath in one shocking night. This 100% true story is the largest raid in Colorado Springs history. Watch now to see the full truth. Like, share, comment, Fort Carson, and subscribe. The operation took place in well-known areas like Monterey Park and Fontana, where the presence of ICE and DEA agents shocked the local community. Arrests happened in broad daylight, surprising both passers-by and local residents. In Monterey Park, ICE agents surrounded a man at a local supermarket. Meanwhile, in Fontana, a dramatic chase unfolded as federal agents pursued a suspect through residential streets, finally apprehending the individual right in front of their home. This operation was part of a larger and far more dangerous investigation targeting a transnational cartel network operating beneath the surface of Los Angeles nightlife and commercial industries. These cartels were not just trafficking drugs. They were also involved in human trafficking, money laundering, and running underground casinos. Federal agents were aiming at more than immigration violations. They were striking at the heart of a sophisticated illegal organization spanning continents. Behind the ordinary facade of massage parlors and nightclubs, agents uncovered a network of criminal activities directly linked to Mexican cartels. This operation was significant because it was not limited to one city or one type of crime. The arrests in Los Angeles marked the start of a broader campaign to dismantle this network. With connections stretching from Mexico to China and operations laundering millions of dollars through illicit businesses, agents knew they were dealing with something far more complex than initially anticipated. This was not a random immigration sweep. It was part of a calculated effort to strike at the core of international organized crime. At the center of the investigation was the use of secret nightclubs and backrooms as fronts for cartel activities. These locations were disguised as legitimate businesses, but were actually key hubs for the cartel's global transactions. Federal agents coordinated to gather evidence from video footage to financial records to piece together the vast scale of this criminal organization. This was just one piece of a larger puzzle that had been hidden in plain sight for years. But the sweep didn't stop there. It was only the beginning. The investigation revealed that what was happening in Los Angeles had spread to other areas of the United States. From New York to Louisiana, this network had entrenched itself in communities operating in secret for too long. The federal government had just taken the first step, and the stakes were unprecedented. But the question remains: how far is the government willing to go to destroy these criminal empires, and what will be the impact on the communities caught in the crossfire? While the Los Angeles sweep captured public attention with its dramatic arrests, the true mission went far beyond immigration enforcement. Federal agencies were targeting a sophisticated criminal network linking Chinese groups and Mexican cartels. This alliance was not just about smuggling people across borders. It involved large-scale human trafficking, money laundering, underground gambling, and even labor exploitation. Agents revealed that seemingly normal businesses like massage parlors, nail salons, and spas often served as fronts for these illegal activities. Before the sun even thought about rising over the Rocky Mountains, the entire south side of Colorado Springs was swallowed in a sea of pulsing red and blue lights. 3:10 on a Sunday morning, more than 300 federal agents, ICE officers, SWAT operators, and K-9 units locked down the intersection of South Academy Boulevard and Airport Road like a war zone. Not a single civilian vehicle moved. Black Hawks roared overhead searchlights, slicing across every rooftop and alley. Bullhorns barked surrender commands in English and Spanish on endless repeat. The club's thick steel door vanished in a blinding flash of C4, gone in under 3 seconds. The explosion rattled windows for blocks. Shards of glass rained down on the sidewalk like deadly confetti. Inside, the 120 decibel sound system cut dead in an instant. Hundreds of bodies that had been grinding wildly on the dance floor froze solid as dozens of M4 barrels stared them down. Agentes federales, manos arriba. De rodillas, the commands boomed in perfect unison, English and Spanish, overlapping like thunder. Red laser dots danced across chests like invisible knives. The air was thick with sweat, cheap liquor, and knockoff perfume. In just 15 minutes, 115 people were zip-tied, blindfolded if they so much as twitched, and marched out in waves onto 10 waiting prison buses under blinding floodlights. Do you support this war to eliminate these cartels? If yes, comment the number 2. If not, comment the number 5. Inside the hastily erected command tent on the roadside, the mood turned ice cold the moment the ID team ran names through NCIC and J-Pass. 17 hits flashed back in screaming red active duty status. Active. 8 of them weren't even in civilian clothes. They were still wearing full ACU combat uniforms, shined-up combat boots unit patches, and rank clearly visible on their shoulders. One Staff Sergeant E5, stripes on his chest, still had his M18 holster strapped to his thigh. The pistol and 3 spare magazines were seized on the spot. These soldiers weren't there to party. They were on a paid shift 10 p.m., Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday, $400 cash per man, plus VIP table tips. Their job: guard the front and rear doors, pat down patrons, confiscate phones, and be ready to handle anyone who tried to record or disrupt the illegal business taking place behind the curtain at the back of the dance floor. The colonel commanding the operation, his face hardening beneath the brim of his black beret, silently took the stack of initial statements from the 2-bar staff. Each line of trembling handwriting confirmed 8 active duty service members had turned the nightclub into their own private fortress for an interstate criminal ring. The radio crackled incessantly with reports from the crime scene team: several pounds of white powder, tens of thousands of dollars in cash, wrapped in plastic bags, and a small safe stuffed with fake documents, along with a list of VIP customers that included the names of several local officials. Outside, the first light of dawn began to break over the top of Cheyenne Mountain, shining down on the long line of police vehicles and the weary faces of more than 100 people in handcuffs sitting in rows on the cold pavement. An operation that was supposed to end in glory had suddenly opened the door to a far greater earthquake deep within the U.S. Army. The nightclub had no fixed name, like a ghostly shadow drifting through the nights of Colorado Springs. Over 2 years, it had relocated 6 times, each time donning a new facade: La Luna, El Fuego, Eclipse, Paradise, Venom, and this time, Nebula. On the surface, it was just a lively Latin nightclub with blazing neon signs and a flashing 18+ only notice. But inside, it served as the command center for a large-scale criminal operation, a discreet bar counter dispensing packages of illicit substances, a basement hiding a weapons cache, a row of perfectly soundproofed VIP rooms, and a one-way glass room allowing management to monitor the entire dance floor through a dense network of cameras. Over the course of 1 year, the Colorado Springs Police Department had received as many as 170 911 calls related to the locations where this ghost had taken up residence. The complaints range from excessive noise, brawls, and gunshots in the parking lot to suspicions of human trafficking and the exploitation of minors. What was thought to be just a club that partied too hard was in reality a critical link in a drug trafficking network that moved product from Mexico through Texas and then fanned out to the mountain states. The DEA had been quietly watching for 6 months, inserting undercover agents recording conversations and gathering covert video until they had enough evidence to secure warrants for a large-scale federal raid. As the crime scene team stepped inside under the harsh white glare of floodlights, the sight was enough to silence even the most seasoned agents. On the VIP tables lay thick stacks of cash, mostly in $20 and $50 bills, totaling more than $180,000 stuffed into clear plastic bags. Behind the bar remained 42 packages of cocaine with 98% purity and nearly 3 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine already divided into smaller portions. In the management office, the wide-open safe contained an additional $62,000 along with a thick notebook filled with the names of regular customers, among them several local police officers who had previously been suspended. The basement revealed 11 handguns, 3 AR-15 rifles with obliterated serial numbers, 8 military-grade stun guns, and dozens of magazines hidden inside empty beverage crates. Of the 115 people arrested, 105 had no legal documentation in the United States. When the ICE identification system ran their fingerprints and facial recognition data, the screens immediately lit up red with alerts. They came from 9 countries, 28 from Guatemala, 24 from Mexico, 19 from Venezuela, 12 from Colombia, 11 from Honduras, 9 from El Salvador, 6 from Cuba, 4 from Nicaragua, and 2 from Chile. Many bore clear gang tattoos of MS-13, Tren de Aragua, or CJNG on their necks, chests, and arms. At least 7 individuals were on the DEA's special watch list due to direct involvement in cross-border shipments. Under the first light of dawn, as the handcuffed suspects sat in long rows on the cold pavement, Operation Nebula had done far more than take down a nightclub. It had exposed an entire transnational criminal network rising up right in the heart of America. The most shocking part remained the 17 active duty service members. All of them were assigned to units stationed at Fort Carson and the U.S. Air Force Academy, less than 20 kilometers from the scene. Their average age was just 24. The oldest was a sergeant aged 27 who had served in combat in Afghanistan. 2 non-commissioned officers had just completed rotations in South Korea, and the rest were privates and specialists who had been in the service for less than 2 years. As they were led out of Nebula under the blinding glare of floodlights, some still tried to maintain a stoic expression, but several of the younger ones broke down in sobs when they recognized comrades from other battalions standing among the special agents, their eyes filled with disappointment and estrangement. The click of the handcuffs rang out like hammer blows, striking at the heart of military pride. That morning, the Department of Defense convened an emergency meeting at the Pentagon. The spokesperson confirmed full cooperation with the DEA and FBI while announcing the immediate temporary suspension of military rank for all 17 individuals, their transfer to a separate detention facility at Fort Carson, and a complete ban on outside communication. A special investigative committee led by a 2-star Major General was established without delay. Unit commanders were required to submit detailed reports on the weekend activities of each service member over the past 6 months. The entire base went into a state of high alert. Thousands of personal lockers were searched, phones were inspected, and bank accounts were scrutinized. Strict curfew orders were imposed on all service members below the rank of E6, no leaving barracks after 10 p.m., with any off-base activity requiring written permission and supervision. At the main gate of Fort Carson, dozens of families began gathering from early morning. Many mothers buried their faces in their hands and wept upon seeing photos of their sons on national news broadcasts with the caption, "Arrested in connection with criminal ring." Army chaplains worked non-stop to provide psychological support to the relatives. In private chat groups, heated debates erupted fiercely. One side argued that military pay was too low and financial pressures had led a few to fall from grace. The other expressed concern that international criminal organizations had actively recruited American service members to exploit their combat skills, discipline, and access to military facilities. One veteran wrote succinctly, "They didn't just buy a few people, they bought our honor." The post spread like wildfire, racking up thousands of shares in just a few hours, serving as a painful wake-up call in the heart of the world's most powerful military. While the military investigation remained taut as a bowstring, the civilian side expanded at breakneck speed. The FBI immediately froze more than 40 bank accounts in the United States, Mexico, and Colombia that had money flowing from Nebula. 3 days later, a joint Mexican task force arrested 3 key suspects in Tijuana as they prepared to cross the border once again. ICE swiftly deported 32 individuals with no prior criminal records while holding the remaining 73 as protected witnesses or primary defendants in upcoming federal cases. Among those arrested that night were 2 individuals on Colorado's top 10 most wanted list, including one charged with first-degree murder and carrying a $100,000 reward. The residents of Colorado Springs fell into a state of profound anger mixed with deep confusion. The city, long proud of being home to 5 major military bases where tens of thousands of service members and their families lived, now had to confront a wound inflicted by its very own symbol of strength. Many shops still displayed signs reading, "We support our troops," but quietly added a small line underneath, "But not criminals in uniform." Interfaith prayer vigils were held continuously at the downtown square and in the city's large churches. Hundreds of people stood in circles holding candles, singing hymns, and praying for healing for the city and for the soldiers who had lost their way. The church bells rang out sadder than ever before. 2 weeks later, the lot that had once been Nebula was completely leveled by bright yellow bulldozers. The building owner announced plans to turn it into a small park with a children's playground and rows of green trees. The last neon sign was taken down, the shards of broken glass were swept away, and the pounding bass no longer rattled the windows of nearby homes. Kids in the neighborhood could once again kick a soccer ball down the street and hear nothing but their own laughter. But the memory of that night lingered like an unhealed scar. Many adults still flinched at the sound of helicopters flying low, still instinctively followed every passing military vehicle with eyes that held a mixture of respect and wary suspicion. The DEA and FBI jointly declared that Operation Nebula was merely the opening shot. Intelligence sources indicated at least 3 similar locations currently operating in Denver, Albuquerque, and Salt Lake City, following an almost identical model. Latin nightclub security personnel dressed in U.S. military uniforms and clientele consisting primarily of undocumented immigrants. A large-scale federal operation codenamed Operation Neon Shield had been approved, expected to last at least 2 years, with a budget in the tens of millions of dollars. The goal was not only to dismantle the nightclubs, but to completely sever all ties between transnational organized crime and any U.S. service members. Under Colorado's clear skies, the criminal neon lights had gone dark, but the floodlights of justice still burned bright with no sign of dimming. That winter arrived early and harsher than any in recent memory in Colorado Springs. Snow blanketed the Rocky Mountains, but the true chill seeped into every home, every heart. The soldiers, whom children once waved to enthusiastically, now walked under the wary gazes of neighbors. Mothers who had proudly displayed photos of their sons in uniform now quietly tucked them away deep in drawers. Yet it was from the deepest wound that the city began to heal. Military mental health centers opened their doors around the clock. Congress considered raising base pay, and weekly workshops titled "The True Value of the Uniform" were held in every barracks. Fort Carson was silent no longer. They chose to confront the pain, chose to repair. Under the night sky, Black Hawks continued their steady patrols, the sound of their rotors no longer startling anyone. It had become the sound of vigilance, of trust being rebuilt brick by brick. Colorado Springs had paid a steep price to learn a hard lesson. No place is invulnerable, no symbol immune to temptation. But they chose to stand up, hold hands, and move forward. A light no longer naive, but resilient and brighter than ever before. From the heartbreaking story in Colorado Springs, the greatest lesson for all of us, especially the young people currently wearing the uniform or dreaming of putting one on, is that honor can never be traded for money. Just $400 per shift was enough to cause 17 active duty service members to lose everything: their careers, their families, their self-respect, and the trust of an entire city. When the traps of easy money and tempting quick cash offers appear, remember that no amount of money is ever large enough to buy back honor once it's lost. A single moment of weakness can destroy a lifetime and wound thousands of others who have placed their faith in you. The Nebula story has come to a close with the flickering candlelight on the Colorado Springs Square, but the question still hangs in the air for every one of us. if one day the very soldier you once cheered and saluted ends up providing security for criminals? What will you still believe in? Drop a comment below. Right now, what do you think the deeper cause is? Military pay being too low, the gangs being too sophisticated, or simply the lack of vigilance in each young soldier? One word is fine: honor or money. Which side do you think matters more? I'll read and reply to every single comment. Thank you all for watching to the very end. If this video made you stop and think, hit that like button hard. Share it with your buddies and family so they can watch too. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for the next shocking cases. See you in the next video, and remember, honor is never for sale. Peace out.